Chimere is a distant planet. It is defined by waves of life brought from Earth and set free to evolve independently in this new context. The indigenous life of the planet, swarms of microbes called magic by the people who live there, are what harvest Earth organisms and make copies on Chimere. As the asteroid which concluded the Mesozoic never struck Chimere, dinosaurs remain the dominant terrestrial megafauna. Sharks are a highly diverse and successful clade of predators in Chimere and have been thriving since the first Mesozoic dynasty. In their long tenure, many have reached impressive size. However, one of the largest species evolved not in Chimere, but on Earth, and when introduced to the oceans of Chimere, took the seas by storm. Megalodon. Megalodon evolved from a lineage of megatooth sharks specialized in large prey. Throughout the Cenozoic, they got increasingly large, culminating in the mighty Megalodon, which first appeared early in the Miocene over 20 million years ago, and went extinct on Earth in the Pliocene, almost 4 million years ago. The ototids, or megatooth sharks, have around 7 genera and Otodus between 7 and 14 possible species. There is debate among specialists regarding the genus name of Megalodon. Otodus implies that their clade persisted for most of the Cenozoic, all belonging to this genus, while Carcharocles speaks to a distinction of Megalodon and 3 of its closest relatives, otherwise classified as species within a very broad genus Otodus. As amongst our paleontologists, there are proponents of both genus names in the assembly. I defer to Otodus as it seems to be the closest to consensus, but personally I do find myself persuaded by the argument in favor of Carcharocles. Genera are strictly quantifiable, only existing to help us more narrowly classify clades, so if Megalodon and its closest relatives have diagnostic traits, which they do, then following Carcharocles seems the more reasonable choice. Again, deferring to the experts. On Earth, Megalodon hunted a very wide range of prey. However, there was a preference for marine mammals when possible. Marine mammals are often heavy for their size thanks to a lot of fat tissue, and considering Megalodon required around 20 times as many daily calories as great whites, fewer kills of fatter prey is quite understandable as a preference. As the Miocene progressed, there were more and increasingly larger options for them to choose from, enabling the evolution of greater size. There isn't all that much fundamentally special about Megalodon. They were not particularly intelligent, formidable, or brazen. They got as large as they did because they could, because the oceans of the Miocene were able to support them. They are an indicator of their ecosystem's health. They are the loudest signal of just how productive oceans were during this time of Earth's history. When they were first introduced to Chimere around 14 million years ago, the oceans of Chimere were recovering from a devastating extinction event. The ocean productivity was especially high in the lower trophic levels, thanks to the nutrients deposited by the seismic activity, which was the catalyst for the extinction in the first place. They were not yet an abundance of megafauna to support these enormous sharks. Therefore, they were not particularly abundant. However, it didn't take long for megafauna to come from both subsequent harvests alongside Megalodon, but also a range of native marine reptiles got bigger as well. Soon, there was an abundance of large prey, bolstered by another harvest from the Pacific of Earth's southern hemisphere. They also brought more Megalodon, bolstering the genetic diversity and setting them up for tremendous success, which they have enjoyed into modern times. In a colder period of Chimere's history, around 8 million years ago, Megalodons spread to the northern hemisphere, where they now enjoy a high trophic position even amongst an abundance of enormous sea creatures. The oldest female megalodon can exceed 20 meters and weigh over 100 tons. Especially in the southern hemisphere, they are unquestionably the largest predator in their environment. An apex predator with no rival. However, not all megalodon are given populations are these Methuselahs. Most are much smaller. Males, in particular, rarely reach 15 meters and 35 tons, and most are around 10 meters and 13 tons as adults. Most adult females range between 13 and 17 meters and a mass of 30 to 70 tons. Still enormous predators, but certainly most fall far short of the other estimates that are often cited. Females are larger for multiple reasons. First and foremost, they need the extra girth to produce offspring. While males reach maturity sooner, their growth plateaus, whereas female megalodon continue to grow at albeit a slower rate throughout their lives. Males tend to be more active, so their calories are devoted to more movement than growth and egg production, especially since being smaller means that movement isn't as efficient as the tail strokes of Methuselah. Today, Megalodon of the known world are generally regarded as the apex predator of the oceans. Though the tropics and warmer temperate waters are dominated by mosasaurs called motomazor, and the southern seas around Kaishel are home to enormous predatory cachalot called the grandfather whale, Megalodon can reach greater sizes and are formidably armed, often dominating direct conflict one-on-one. However, the populations of mosasaur especially are much higher, and some consider them to be ecologically dominant. Motomazor cows often live in small groups and can reliably chase off even very large megalodon. Male Motomazor are solitary, but their danger lies in their attacks of younger megalodon, often seeking them out, seeming in a sort of vengeance. Though adult megalodon prefer to hunt in temperate waters, their range spans the oceans. Adults often summer in the polar oceans, feeding on an abundance of marine mammal prey, while young are born in the winter in subtropical seas and lagoons. Adult megalodon do not linger in the inland sea. With an average depth of less than 30 meters, a 20-meter shark that prefers to ambush from below is going to struggle. There are current channels of greater depth that Megalodon can and do hunt in, but the heat of the waters is more than adults like to linger in. It's very rare to find adult male Megalodon in these waters. Most grown sharks in these waters are pregnant females come to give birth. The eggs hatch within the mother. The largest babies often feed on their smaller embryos, so even though the mother often has between 15 and 30 eggs, it's usually only 3 to 7 pups that are actually born. Each is around 2 meters long. They are born armed and ready to hunt. Their mother will not stick around to provide or protect, so they must seek shelter. Unfortunately, the inland sea is not a quiet sanctuary. In fact, the deeper channels are generally where pups reside. The seagrass meadows have more game, but there's a lot more competition, and several predators which view a 2-meter shark as a pleasant appetizer. Catabo are long, slender mosasaurs of the reefs. They prevent Megalodon from getting too comfortable nearby. In the meadows, panther and wolverine sharks favor sirenians and sloths, but will happily hunt a young Megalodon if it patrols in the wrong waters. The channels are not without their dangers, with mosasaurs on the hunt, but usually the young pups can stay out of the way and deeper in the water, subsisting on fish ranging the currents and the occasional sea turtle or sirenian that wanders into their range. Though Megalodon grow twice as fast as great whites, around half a meter per year or so early on, in these first few years they are very vulnerable. Once they reach 5 meters at around 6 years of age, they can be bolder in their hunting and patrol. Panther sharks are now around their size, and wolverine sharks only slightly larger, and Catawba aren't that much of a threat either. They must still be wary of mosasaurs in the channels, which is why Megalodon of this size tend to venture into the meadows. Here, however, there is a new threat they must face: the Kurujaku. These theropods are the apex predators of the meadows. They are sinkers, so can't pursue prey in open water, but are surprisingly fast running along the substrate. As long as Meg Pups sense them coming, they can usually escape, but defending their kills is out of the question. Kurujaku also have demanding metabolisms and favor an abundance of marine mammals in the seagrass meadows, and are not above scavenging. Once the pups reach their late teens at around 8 to 9 meters long, they transition back into the channels. Some remain there for a few years. Though they're in the occasional motomazor they have to worry about, for the most part, they are kings and queens of these waters. Especially when upwells send in abundance up the currents, a plethora of cetaceans can sustain them. The Kurujaku that once threatened them will no longer readily venture into these channels, while Megalodon don't make a habit of crossing into the meadows, so the two at this stage now have come to an understanding. When Megalodon attain lengths of around 10 meters or 30 feet, males slow their growth and reach sexual maturity. Females have more growing to do and mature later, but both tend to venture toward more open waters at this time. Now, sloths, walruses, and sirenians are just not enough. Whales become their bread and butter. We think of whales as giants. While there are some baleen whales of lengths approaching such taxa as humpback and sei whales in Chimere, most are closer to between 5 and 10 meters. It is pods of these cetotheres that Megalodon favor in these years. North of Picardia and throughout the Great Caline Sea, young Megalodon become the whalers that they need to be to survive adulthood. This territory also has a range of toothed whales which hunt cephalopods in canyons, large elasmosaurs corralling fish, and kelp forests which are home to very abundant species of giant sirenian. It is in the Caline Sea that most male Megalodon will end up spending the rest of their lives. Females, however, must continue growing. To do so, many continue out into the open ocean. Though many areas are barren, experienced Megalodon will know where to return to consistent upwells which draw in a range of prey. Some become proficient at diving deep into canyons to hunt cachalot. Others make annual migrations south to summer in the extremely productive waters surrounding the polar continent of Kaishel. Once they reach their 30s, female Megalodon have reached sizes needed to become pregnant, at which point they return to the channels whence they were born to begin the next generation. Some mothers make nursery of the gulfs and mangroves of western Arvel, while others birth in Kairul, but of course most Chimerans are familiar with the nurseries of the Trachayam Sea. It should come as no surprise that Megalodon hold great cultural importance to many peoples of Chimere. Not all of these opinions are consistent, even amongst the Caline who most encounter them. For example, many of the Escadine peoples of the eastern reaches call them the grandmother shark. In their myths, Megalodon were the first sharks, and from them all sharks are born. Many great heroes and Escadine folktales were born of the Megalodon, and they are very popular sigils. Pearls, iridescent shell, and polished coral are all prized adornments, but most Escadine village matrons wear a Megalodon tooth over their mantles to honor the mother of all sharks. To the Akanuk, Megalodon have a far more sinister reputation. Whaler sharks are the greatest villains of the sea. Megalodon know whalers will bring down their favored prey, and they need only follow. Xenitel feed on organs and orcas favor tongues, so aren't much of a bane to whalers outside of prolonging the process before the whaler sharks arrive. Megalodon often seek the blubber, same as whalers, so competition is direct and intense. Some whalers might try to fight the Megalodon off, but they are extremely difficult to kill, and often this just injures the shark as they become entirely reliant on whalers for food. Because of this, a fast haul to shallower waters is favored over conflict. This can limit what and when whales can be taken, and thankfully for the marine ecosystems, limit the scope of whaling to numbers that don't much hamper populations. Whale oil is also extremely expensive due to the difficulties of acquisition. Even so, it's a foundation of Akanuke economy, and whalers proudly risk their lives for it. It is rare for a full catcher ship to be sunk by Megalodon, especially since most whaler sharks are far short of the maximum size, but there have been accounts of Methuselah coming to Culleen Sea early in winter, sinking a ship, consuming its crew and catch, before continuing north to berth. The peoples of the Free States and Picardia don't encounter these enormous sharks as frequently, but it occurs enough that they have legendary status. A catcher ship may not be easily sunk by a 50-ton shark, but a single-mast sloop is another story entirely. Fishermen must be extremely cautious in deeper waters. Megalodon may not seek out tiny fish, but a net packed with herring is too tempting a target to ignore. Oftentimes, though, the shark is simply curious. If the fin is visible, conventional wisdom says it's likely just investigating. Best not to feed them, but panic usually isn't called for. A curious bite might be a problem, but it's rare for fishing boats to intentionally be sunk, and angering the shark with pike jabs or exciting it with cries just increases the chances of aggressive or startled retaliation. Most experienced fishermen urge their younger crewmates to remain calm. Just let the shark explore. The earlier Megalodon learn that fishing boats are a reality of the territory and don't have anything interesting to offer, the less likely they grow up to be a serious problem. As a keystone animal in both ecology and culture of Chimere, Megalodon is an extremely important animal. They aren't as strange to us as mosasaurs and swimming theropods, but they're an extremely impressive sight to behold all the same. Yes, the size is impressive, but this size is only possible thanks to the productivity of Chimere's ocean, not because of any might or power. It is an indicator, and for that, little speaks of a marine ecosystem's health quite as loudly as 100 tons of shark. Shout out to Memes and Treasure for sponsoring this episode. Have given Megalodon a lot of mention over the years, but it was great to give this incredible animal a proper spotlight. As many longtime viewers of this channel may note, this shark has undergone several revisions over the years, and there are likely revisions yet to come. To my albeit amateur understanding, at the moment there are two main interpretations of what Megalodon may have looked like. Some think it was shorter and stockier, while others favor a longer, leaner build based on a more recent paper. More recent doesn't automatically mean favored, especially since I've heard rumor of a rebuttal in the works. A shorter, stockier build would, like a tuna, be faster and more efficient. A longer, leaner build, however, would possess greater agility. Both builds certainly have their merits. Most of the prey Megalodon would prefer hunting would be whales around half their size, so greater agility sounds like it would be very important. Even when hunting prey closer to their own size, being able to more reliably turn sure sounds advantageous. However, at this size, any improvement to efficiency would have tremendous benefit. Saving a dozen calories worth of energy with each stroke of the tail would really add up. They would likely need to move around a lot so as not to deplete a region, so a body plan that conserves energy is quite valuable. I've spoken to advocates of both interpretations, so as someone who is very much not an expert, I'm at a bit of a loss. Pending more papers, I'm choosing more or less to split the difference. Not as efficient as some stockier reconstructions, not as agile as others, and this will all be eligible to change as more studies are completed and, fingers crossed, we find more informative material than is available for public and peer review study at this time. I try to keep my project as scientifically informed and up to date, within the obvious constraint of a planet home to magic. Science marches on, and while Chimere is still in development, so do my designs. Huge thanks to my Patreon patrons for your support of Chimere. It is what it is today because of your contributions, along with sponsors like Memes and Treasures. If you would like to support this project, even at the lowest tier, is quite helpful. Thanks as well for your watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Cheers, folks!